Good morning. My name is Lachlan Walker and I'm a celebrant, and it's my honour to conduct this celebration service for the life of James Sallans. Could I just ask at the beginning of the service that you just ensure your mobile phones are off or on silent? That would be great. And I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of the family and Katrina from Hanson and Cole to thank you for your attendance here today. James Sallans, or Jim as he was known, was born into this world on the 27th of September, I'll read my own writing, 1927 in Orange. A country boy at heart, Jim was too young to go to war, but he joined the occupation forces going into Japan after the war. When he came back, he met a gorgeous young lady, Olive May Bell, at a dance. And in 1951, they were married. This year, celebrating 65 years of marriage. A great achievement and something that is sadly lacking in this day and age. Jim and Olive produced a legacy of 5 children: Stephen, Peter, Brian, Jennifer and Diana, who are both deceased. 3 grandchildren, Kirk, Derek and Conrad, and 4 great-grandchildren. After coming back from Japan, Jim was an upholsterer and then an antique stealer later in life. A man with a diverse character, hard yet generous, not particularly well educated, but very bright and extremely well self-educated, particularly in what interested him, such as politics and history. He was an old-time country gentleman who could converse with strangers on just about anything. He was musical, almost too good, and he loved a bargain. A man that led an interesting life and showed his family how to grow up to be successful people. A man that will be dearly missed. When I come to the end of the road and the sun has set from me, I want no rights in gloom-filled rooms. Why cry for a soul set free? Miss me a little, but not too long, and not with your head bowed low. Remember the love that we once shared. Miss me, but let me go. For this is a journey that we all must take, and each must go alone. It's all part of the Master's plan, a step on the road to home. When you are lonely and sick at heart, go to the friends we know and busy your sorrows in doing good deeds. Miss me, but let me go. Just have a couple of apologies. Jim's sister, Philippa, her husband, Jock, and son, David, send their best to Olive and the family and apologise that she and Jock are no longer able to travel. And also Stephen and Corrali also send their love to Olive and Stephen. We'll see Olive later and Stephen will see Olive later in the day. We're now going to hear from Jim's son, Derek, as he comes to give a tribute to his father on behalf of the family. Oh, grandson, sorry. Oops.
Does this turn off? Yes, no? I don't like microphones. So, thanks for coming, everybody. Can you hear me in the back? And thanks to the gentleman from the RSL for coming on as well. We appreciate that. Jim passed on a lot of excellent traits to his children, grandchildren and great-grandchildren, but standing up in the limelight is definitely not one of them, so here I am. So Jim was born in Orange and grew up during the Depression, which I think coloured a lot of things during his life. He came from a family of coach builders and his father was a trimmer and upholsterer, which work he carried on after he came back from the Western Front, suffering lung problems from a gas attack. It seems that going out west on fishing trips, taking Jim with him, helped with his health. His mother saw herself as a socialite and had her heyday during the Roaring 20s in Orange, which was, I'm sure, very adventurous. And she kept a very proper house, with children being kept in the kitchen, not allowed in the sitting room, and they were heard and not seen. Something that I think is good to pass on.
Seen and not heard.
Seen and not heard. Jim's childhood stories of not taking school seriously, hunting rabbits for money, going bush with his dad, and eventually leaving school at 14 like a lot of children of the era, may have made him somewhat of a disappointment for his mother, although she clearly achieved something, as he never mentioned piano lessons, but he was a natural piano player, able to listen to a piece of music or a set of notes, and not only play them but embellish the tune on the piano. He embarrassed many trained piano players, but didn't seem to be able to read music. Anytime he came into a room with the piano, he could not help but drift towards it and play a few notes. His mother would have been proud of that, other than the stories from the days when he drank, when he would play piano for beers in the pub. He went to Japan during the post-World War II occupation forces as a motor trimmer and upholsterer, and found himself in a large workshop with a number of other tradesmen and a group of Japanese civilian workers. Being left to themselves, as groups of men tend to do, they drifted towards what they were good at, and Jim ended up signing forms, checking deliveries, planning, doing paperwork. So one day an officer turned up looking for the NCO in charge. He was told there wasn't one, it was just a group of tradesmen. And he says, there is an NCO in charge, his name's on all these forms, it's Sallans. So he was introduced to Jim, who he then promoted on the spot. So Jim seems to have gone, or may have gone up and down in ranks a couple of times during his service, but ended up as a corporal in the end. Presumably the workshops did something for the army, although the only stories about them seem to be of the Japanese tailor making them custom uniforms and hand-stitched patches, and how well the sailing boats they made from Japanese flying boat pontoons worked, as long as they weren't drunk and drifting down the coastline. After the war, Jim has gone from job to job, being successful for a few years and then moving on to something different. Usually he went back to upholstery, but did a variety of things when he was younger. He ended up as an antique dealer in his later life, or later working life, a career which he loved, possibly because it was constantly changing, which I think is something we can all relate to. An example of his approach to a long-term career was when he joined Hawker de Havilland at a time when they were working on a number of parts for the Boeing 747. Jim did some excellent work helping turn engineering plans for the escape chutes and seats into practical manufacturing processes. At the end of this few years, partly in recognition, he was offered the head tradesman's job, and so he quit. Jim's mother once said, apparently, Sallans men have no stickability. I can't imagine why that might be. Jim and Olive were club people in their day, enjoying running and organising, with Jim often ending up in some position in the club partly because of the intensity with which he took on any new interest. For instance, after joining the Liverpool Dog Training Club during a period where he dived into learning about dogs, he not only ended up president of the dog, but had 23 dogs of his own or in boarding at the house. At heart, Jim always remained a country boy, strict in his view of respecting your elders, wearing a suit when going out, and always being friendly and outgoing. If anyone knocked on the door, they were expected to stay for a cuppa. And a stranger on the bus or in a shop was treated to a conversation like an old friend. He apparently thought that the whole world was just a big small town, which is odd living in the middle of Sydney. Yeah. His approach to teaching his children also seems to have been flavoured by this. To his children, training to shoot a gun or drive a car seemed to be conducted by saying, "There's the paddock crasher, you know where the gears and brake are, off you go." Knowing you lot though, it's clear that there was a lot of preparation before anyone was left behind the wheel, and a lot of required instruction from there on. He was generous without thinking about it, often giving gifts he thought people would like, not for birthdays or Christmas, just when he came across them. Anything from a cheap Chinese bottle opener to an expensive antique brooch. Of course, he wouldn't always think this through, sometimes giving away the expensive antique brooch that represented the week's profits. He had an ongoing interest in history and a love of reading. From a starting point of very little formal education, Jim spent most of his life reading as much as he could about the broad spectrum of human history and taking every opportunity to argue and discuss both accepted and alternate ideas about the past and the present. Perhaps the legacy which will live on is this love of thinking, reading, and arguing about arcane issues, which seems to have passed on through his sons, grandsons, and even to his great-grandsons, who take great delight in dissecting the latest Star Wars movie or Harry Potter book, debating theories in much the same manner as Jim discussed the scorched earth policies of World War II Soviet Army. Thanks, everyone.